Good afternoon. They can't hear me. Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting of the Board of Education. This meeting is being televised live on AACPS TV and streamed on AACPS YouTube's channel. General information and protocols for the meeting are posted on the signs by the doorway as you enter the room. So please make sure that you read those if you have not already. The invocation. Oh God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2.303, approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion, please?
Madam President, I move that item 9, public comments on non-agenda items, be heard during item 3, public comments on agenda items.
Let's do the approval of the minutes first.
Forgive me.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. Any dissent? All right. Now we'll have item 2.04, established agenda order.
Madam President, I move that item number 9, public comments on non-agenda items, be heard during item 3, public comments on agenda items.
Second.
Any dissent? All right. Motion to establish the agenda order.
I motion to establish the agenda order.
Second.
All right, thank you. Let's get to public comments. Item 3, comments on non-agenda item. This is one of the opportunities that the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. The members of this board appreciate hearing from interested citizens. As appropriate, we will refer your concerns to the superintendent for follow-up by his staff. While we encourage public input on policies, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and the school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific students or employee matters, or to comment on matters that do not relate to the public education in Anne Arundel County. I remind everyone that an inappropriate personnel remarks or other behaviors that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting are out of order. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be asked to leave the meeting. It is not the board's general practice to engage in question and answer sessions with the speakers. For the record, please give your name before speaking. Handouts should be given to the board assistants. I ask that speakers observe the 2-minute clock. A yellow light will shine when you have 30 seconds remaining, and a tone will sound when your time has expired. Please conclude your remarks when you hear the tone. If you continue after your time has expired, the microphone will be turned off. It could also be turned off if the speaker addressed student-specific or employee matters, or are commenting on matters not related to public education in Anne Arundel County. And with that, our first speaker tonight is Gary Palmer. Elizabeth Tobe is next, Sylvia Calabrese, and Amber Lewis, Caitlin Bullock. You all can come up as needed.
Good evening. My name is Gary Palmer, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, Superintendent Bedell, and esteemed board members. Again, I'm Gary Palmer. I'm chair of the Anne Arundel County Soil Conservation District, member of the Ag Commission for Anne Arundel County, owner of Holiday Memories Farm, a father and a grandfather. I'm also a first-generation farmer, and I grew up in Washington, D.C., so I don't fit your typical farm person. But I love farming, I have a passion for farming, and that's why I'm here tonight. I built a career in agriculture. How did I do this? Hard work, community support, and supportive educational programs. I'm here to urge you tonight to expand agricultural education at Southern High School by opening enrollment to students from Annapolis, South River, and Crofton. Here's why this matters. Southern High School offers the county's only plant and animal science program. For over 5 years, I've advocated for this expansion alongside the county executive, economic development, soil conservation, and farm bureau. Anne Arundel County has invested significant resources in South County agriculture. They've acquired the Rockhole Barn. They've codified an ag commission. They've also have farm grant programs to help young farms and start up farm operations. And we're currently in the process of working on a regional ag center. Every farm in South County offers a variety of hands-on learning. At Holiday Memories Farm, I partner with county council offices, Southern Police District to host students from Annapolis communities like Bywater, Copeland Street, kids who may not have been expanded to agriculture. Is that it?
Go ahead.
On 2 minutes?
Go ahead,
Okay. These students learn about animal care, food production, soil stewardship, and practical skills like fixing fences, holding tools for the first time. I've witnessed how this experience transforms young people. Every year, parents call me asking me how their children can access this program. Meanwhile, I struggle to find workers with basic agricultural knowledge. The demand is real from both families and employers. As both a farmer,
Please conclude.
basically to wrap it up, I'm asking you to expand the educational opportunities for all kids in Anne Arundel County, not just the kids in Southern District, but for all the kids who may not have had a chance to participate. Thank you very much. Wishing all a happy holiday season.
Ms. Elizabeth?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Toby. I live in the Annapolis cluster. I actually work on Holiday Memories Farm with my 3 kids and my husband, who's a DC police officer. So I'm in support of expanding the farm program to all of Anne Arundel County students. And this program should be treated like any other magnet program. If we can bus students to science, arts, or technical magnets, then we absolutely can and should bus to an agricultural one. The benefits of this program far outweigh the reasons not to do it. An agricultural education connects students to real-world learning that research shows improves engagement, attendance, and academic outcomes. Hands-on project-based programs increase problem-solving skills, responsibility, and long-term student success. Students don't just learn concepts, they apply them. They learn how to work with their hands, care for animals, understand food systems, and see sustainability in action through practices like composting and land management, not just in a textbook. Agriculture is also a growing and essential workforce sector. There are careers in science, technology, environmental management, animal care, engineering, and business that all stem from agricultural education. Programs like this expose students to career pathways that they may never otherwise see, especially those who do not have access to farms or land at home. I've seen these benefits firsthand. My children, who are now 12, 10, and 4, have been volunteering at Holiday Memories Farm for the past 5 years. Through that experience, they've learned how to safely use tools, care for chickens and turkeys, understand composting systems, experience the full life cycle of planting, from starting seedlings to planting and harvesting. But beyond the skills they've learned, the value of hard work, consistency, teamwork, and being outside. They've learned that meaningful learning can be physical, hands-on, and deeply rewarding. Not every child has access to these opportunities, and that's why this program matters. Busing students to the farm program isn't a barrier, it's a bridge to equity, access, and workforce readiness. If we truly want to prepare students for the real world and future careers, we need to support programs that reflect how the world actually works. And this program does that.
Thank you. Sylvia?
Good evening. My name is Sylvia Calabrese. I'm one of your 2026 Maryland State Farm Bureau Ag Ambassadors. While also being a senior at South River High School, my family operates a small farm right here in Anne Arundel County, with all of my passion and work going towards the future of ag. As a senior, I am preparing to enter the agricultural industry, but I'm at a significant disadvantage. I was never able to access the specialized education that will have prepared me best. The Southern High School CASE program, FFA, is a unique and essential asset. It offers students hands-on learning, applied sciences, business training, and different leadership development skills. This program is not just a high school course, but a lifeline for the next generation of our local food system. Yet for me, as a student at South River High School, and for countless others across the county, this crucial resource has remained completely inaccessible because of one simple factor: our zip codes. As a senior who is graduating in a few months and seeking a career in ag, I feel the weight of this missed opportunity. I missed out on the credentials, the networking, and the unique skills that would have been available if only there had been an application of interest pathway during my freshman year or even in my middle school. I ask you today to adapt an open district enrollment policy for the Southern High School CASE and FFA program. By doing so, you will ensure that the students who show the greatest interest and aptitude for agriculture, regardless of their district, are given the tools that they need to succeed. Let's ensure that no person that is interested in agriculture is left behind because of where they live. Thank you.
Amber Lewis?
Good evening. My name is Amber Lewis, and I thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. If you would have asked me 2 years ago whether I would be advocating for agricultural education, I would have laughed. It was not on my radar. But life has a way of leading you exactly where you're meant to be. 2 years ago, my husband and I purchased property in Davidsonville. I wanted a few chickens, and as many people will tell you, chickens are the gateway farm animal. We have 4 children, and something incredible happened when those chickens arrived. The kids lit up. They thrived outdoors, caring for animals and learning responsibility in a hands-on, meaningful way. Today, those chickens have turned into goats, pigs, sheep, and a small farm business called Coastal Graze, where our goats help clear brush and invasive plants. We started as a simple idea, became a meaningful part of my family's life. Our daughter, Arabella, who's here tonight, she's 13, and she joined 4-H and fell in love with it. Through 4-H, she has met hardworking, driven students and discovered confidence, leadership, and community worth. Watching that growth has been one of the greatest joys as being a parent. I did not grow up on a farm, and I never imagined this path, but agriculture has changed my family in ways I never expected. That's why I'm here tonight. I'm asking that more students across Anne Arundel County be given access to Southern High School's agricultural programs, including FFA and CASE. These programs teach leadership, science, responsibility, and real-world skills that stay with students long after graduation. With the growing interest in sustainability and hands-on learning, there's no better time to expand these opportunities. Please consider opening Southern's agricultural programs to more students across the county. Thank you.
Caitlin Bullock.
Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Don Pulliam, Superintendent Bedell, and members of the school board. My name is Caitlin Bullock, and I'm a former 2024 graduate of Southern High School, as well as being a former state officer last year and currently studying agriculture education and food science at Oklahoma State University. I'm here in support of expanding Southern High School's agriculture education program from students to Annapolis, South River, and Crofton. I began my agriculture journey in 4-H. There, as a freshman, I then transferred into FFA, where I continued my projects and further expanded into raising cattle and goats. This transition impacted me with the structure of agriculture education at Southern, and it also helped me change my view of the food supply and those around me. The University of Maryland's 4-H program serves many students throughout the county, but those opportunities are limited. 3 4-H clubs are in our county. Harwood 4-H, which serves students of Southern and South River feeder systems. Kinder Park, which then serves the rest of the community, which has a 5-year waiting period to be a member of the club, as well as the Dairy Leasing Club, which has had off and on periods, and there are many struggles that they're currently facing with not enough space to raise the animals for students. Expanding agriculture education and FFA programs would help meet this demand through school-based education and supervised agriculture experiences and leadership development throughout the entire year. The community's resources, including the school greenhouse and the Rockhold barn, can help fill that need. FFA has taught me more than technical skills of producing livestock. I've developed leadership skills, teamwork, public speaking, and problem solving. These skills will directly help me in college and in my career. And it is important that students across the county have access to these skills by broadening Southern's CASE program through students across the county. Thank you.
All right, next up is Sam Moreland and Kevin Caton Jr. All right, first up, Sam.
Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, Superintendent Bedell, and members of the Board of Education. My name is Sam Moreland, and I'm a graduate of Southern High School's Agriculture Education Program and currently serve as the Maryland FFA State Secretary. The FFA Creed begins, I believe, in the future of agriculture with a faith born not of words, but of deeds. I have lived that belief for the past 4 years, showing livestock, managing projects, and seeing firsthand how agriculture education transforms students. Agriculture education builds real-world skills, leadership, and responsibility while helping students understand the systems that feed and sustain our communities. I believe in opportunity. Anne Arundel County plays a crucial role in Maryland's agriculture, the state's #1 industry. Yet our county only offers 3 agriculture education programs and 2 FFA chapters. Southern High School is unique because it offers plant and animal science and offers work-based learning centers on food production and animal husbandries. Other ACPS ag education programs such as Cat North focus on natural resource conservation and management, while Southern's program addresses food production. Expanding access to students outside of Southern's attendance area would allow more students to explore agriculture firsthand and gain leadership experience through FFA. As a Maryland FFA state officer, I have seen that agriculture education is not just for traditional farm communities. Students from suburban and urban areas increasingly interested in learning about where their food comes from and how it's grown. Counties like Prince George's, primarily urban, are experiencing significant growth in agriculture education programs and FFA membership. These trends show that agriculture education benefits everyone regardless of your background. I respectfully urge the board to expand access so that more students in Anne Arundel County can experience the life-changing opportunities that agriculture education provides. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Kevin.
Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, Superintendent Bedell, and honorable members of the board. My name is Kevin Caton, and as you know, I'm the Southern FFA Chapter President. I would like to share an update on our program and advocate for our program's expansion. Over the past 6 months, under Dr. Bedell's leadership, our program has made significant improvements. We have added 4 hydroponic systems and an aquaponic system, and are moving into a classroom with brand new furniture, and installing a new control system for our greenhouse to ensure full functionality. We also have a fully engaged CTA liaison who deeply supports our program. With these investments, we are positioned for growth and look forward to spring. For the past 5 years, students, families, and even community stakeholders have advocated for expanded access to agriculture education. We have learned that many students are unaware of our program, yet they are interested in learning how their food is grown and how to raise animals. In response, our FFA leadership has focused on increasing awareness and engagement. We are working with elementary schools to introduce young students to farming, animals, and food production, and we are already seeing a rise in requests for classroom visits. We also participated in the Maryland Farm Bureau Next Gen Conference, where Maryland State Secretary of Agriculture Kevin Addix encouraged us not to give up and reminded us that meaningful progress requires a clear and consistent message. At the conference, we met with state leaders, participated in policy discussion, and strengthened our advocacy skills. For my senior research capstone project, I will work with middle school science classes that feed into South River, Crofton, Southern, and Annapolis high schools. I will introduce students to food science, plant science, animal science, and even aquaculture. Then measure learning gains and student interest in future agriculture courses. This research focuses on building curiosity and leadership before students even reach high school.
Please summarize.
Recently, County Executive Pittman publicly expressed his support for the program expansion and stated he is awaiting a plan from AACPS. AACPS has already made the financial investment. So that brings me to one simple question. What more can we do to make this happen? Thank you for your time and consideration, guys.
Thank you all. All right, we'll hear item 4.01, the CRAS report.
Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. My name is Jason Semenoff Jr. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a proud sophomore at Chesapeake High School. I'm honored to serve as the CRAS Secretary of Education. On Saturday, November 22nd, 74 middle and high school delegates across 11 advisors went to Northwest High School in Montgomery County to attend MASC's Fall Leadership Conference. From representation of MASC staff, presenters, and delegates and events throughout the day, including presentations from the Maryland Association of School Business Officials, mock assemblies, learning parliamentary procedure, and honing in skills in various workshops from MASC presenters and student workshop coordinators. Overall, the day was not only informative and helpful, but an experience for growth and fun. The Maryland General Assembly Student Page Program offers Maryland high school seniors with an interest in government a unique opportunity to gain firsthand experience in the legislative process. Student pages serve for 2 non-consecutive weeks, working alongside members of the General Assembly during the legislative session in Annapolis. Anne Arundel County is allotted 10 page positions. Congratulations to the students listed on this slide. In addition to the students' names displayed, the group includes 2 AACPS alternates and 3 students representing private schools in our county. The 449th session of the Maryland General Assembly will convene in Annapolis on January 14th, 2026. The latest episode of Teen Talk, titled Unified Spirit, is now available on the AACPS YouTube page. In this episode, host Amanda Morataya interviews our SMOB, Braden, and Mr. Jeff Abel, Vice President of Local Program Development for Special Olympics Maryland, and several plungers across the county. The conversation explores topics such as importance of unity and inclusivity in our schools, amplifying student voices and AACPS's meaningful partnerships with Special Olympics. On January 24th, 2026, the Maryland Association of Student Councils will host its annual legislative session at Loch Raven High School in Baltimore County. This conference will include the selection of the 2 final nominees for the state student member of the board position and will also recognize the outstanding contribution of current and former SMOBs across Maryland. Attendees will have the opportunity to learn about youth-related legislation under consideration by the Maryland General Assembly and to take official student positions on key bills. The session will feature student presenters who will share legislative information and facilitate discussion among participants. Students interested in attending should contact their SGA advisor to obtain a permission slip. Registration closes on Friday, January 9th. Finally, last year, the CRASC General Assembly ratified an amendment to its constitution and bylaws to create a more transparent and inclusive student member of the board election process by incorporating a nominating convention. As a result of these changes, voting delegates approved new procedures that will take effect this school year. CRASC will host a SMOB information night on January 7th at 6:30 p.m. via Google Meet. Any current junior in good academic standing who is interested in running is strongly encouraged to attend. The full student member of the board timeline is on this slide and will be posted on Thursday, tomorrow, December 18th at aacps.org/CRASC and on the CRASC Canvas course. To find out more about CRASC, visit aacps.org/CRASC for a list of upcoming events, also on this slide. Also, please join our Canvas course and follow @CRASC_online on Instagram. I hope you all have a safe, fun, relaxing, and refreshing winter break. That's all from me. See you next month.
Thank you. Next up is the CAC report. No CAC? All right, well, that brings it to the best one. So Monday, December the 8th, we had the annual Board of Education retreat. I am excited to say that the board members, along with the superintendent and his cabinet members, collaborated in a roundtable discussion of administrative functions and related matters. It was an amazing event, and I appreciate all that contributed. A special thank you to the members of May Facilitator, and say thank you to the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for hosting us. On Thursday, December the 11th, there was a resource fair at Freetown Elementary School hosted by the Maryland Department of Human Services and Community Outreach. It was an opportunity for both families and students to interact with the Maryland Department of Human Resources, but also to see the resources that was available to them and in the Freetown community. On Friday, December the 12th and Friday, December the 12th and Friday, December the 9th, Fall Unified Showcases will be at Meade High School, or it was held at Meade High School, and on Friday, January the 9th, it will be held at Severna Park High School. These events showcase how students with and without disabilities collaborate, think critically, and solve problems together to create inclusive environments where all students can succeed. And with that, our Vice President, Ms. Dawn Pulliam, has signed up all board members to participate in the January the 29th Polar Bear Plunge. Ms. Pulliam and I will join members of CRASC and members of faculty and staff of Anne Arundel County for the Polar Bear Plunge. Now, I can say without unequivocally that I can't swim, so I will be sticking my toe in and pulling it out. But we encourage each of you to all raise money for this great cause. And so with that, each board member, your challenge is open. On Monday, December the 15th, Ms. Silva Cabrisi of South River High School, formerly our Anne Arundel County Farm Bureau Ambassador, was elected to the State Farm Bureau as the State Farm Bureau Ambassador. I think she's here tonight, so let's give her a round of applause. Congratulations. This event was a wonderful opportunity to celebrate our young leaders, support our agricultural community, and highlight the strong educational pathways we continue to build. Thank you to the future farm, to the farm FAFO. What does that mean? Thank you to the FAFO for hosting this event. And a huge congratulations to the Meade High School boys basketball coach, Mr. Mike Glick, for his 600th win. That is pretty amazing. And with that, I'm going to have a few words from our Vice President, Ms. Dawn Pulliam.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to congratulate Sylvia Calabrese again. What turned out, her family reached out to Braden and I to name the baby calf on the Fafo farm, which is her family farm, to name the baby calf, which she didn't realize as we were coming to recognize her at the same time. So we had members from the Farm Bureau and Mr. Jim Todd and our new principal from South River High School and other community members to come and join us in celebrating her. This is a big accomplishment, going from county ambassador to state. There are only 2 state ambassadors for this position for the year. Congratulations. We are proud of you. Please never again under 30-degree weather. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. I will have a lot more to say about some of the great work going on in our district during my budget address in a few minutes, but I do want to highlight a few things in this report very quickly. First, I want to congratulate Monarch Academy Principal Kim Jukovich on earning the George Arlotto Leadership Award as our Principal of the Year. Ms. Jukovich has been principal at Monarch since 2018 and does an amazing job there. Ms. Dent, Ms. Pulliam, Mr. Silkworth, and I, along with Education Foundation President Vic Samuels and Executive Director Joe Callahan, got the chance to surprise Ms. Jukovich at the school yesterday. She will now go on to represent our district in the Washington Post Principal of the Year program. Here's a quick video of how the surprise unfolded yesterday. In Anne Arundel County, we have 130 schools. It's a very large school district. Every year, there can only be one that is named Principal of the Year. And for the 25-26 school year, your principal has been named and selected as Principal of the Year for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. Congratulations.
My team is the most amazing team. You will never find any teachers anywhere who show up with as much heart and care and desire to learn and grow for you than you will at this school.
It's just an amazing environment. The culture and climate is special. It's a well-deserved award, and so I'm just excited that she is the recipient of the George Arlotto 2025-2026 Principal of the Year Award.
Feel very humbled. There's so many amazing leaders in our district, so I don't take this award lightly. I just feel really full of gratitude and appreciation to get to work in a school like this, to get to work in our county with people who just want to do all that is right and good. It's really a lovely moment.
All right, congratulations. Right, if you haven't had the chance, please go to Annapolis Mall and check out the artwork at our elementary students at the Winter Wonderland art exhibit. The work of more than 300 student artists is on display, and it is just amazing to see how talented these students are. The exhibit is open during normal mall hours through January 8th, and it is near Crate and Barrel and the Discoveries Library in the mall. You will not be disappointed, and I'm certain many people are doing last-minute shopping, so this is a real good time to see it. All right. Congratulations to 167 educators who either earned their initial national board certification or renewed their certification this year. In the last 2 years, we have had more than 330 educators earn this prestigious certification. We are very proud of each and every one of them and of the program in place in our district that helps educators throughout this process. More than 450 educators in our district are working on their certifications now. I also want to highlight the work of our Office of School and Family Partnerships and our Accountability Office as they continue to help families get connected to the Canvas Learning Management System. 2 weeks ago, they teamed up for a Canvas Family Night at Marley Middle that drew 159 participants. Every one of them left with their accounts successfully created and ready to be an active part of their students' academic progress and journey. Thanks to everyone involved in this and other outreach efforts that we provide. Finally, I just wanted to provide this update. I'm not going to go into a whole bunch of detail on it because I'll talk a lot more about it in the update. But this is just what we do every 2 weeks, just continue to provide our community with this update. You see where we have vacancies, any opportunities for you all to help us with recruiting and trying to get all of these down to zero will be great. But we're very proud of where we are as a district in comparison to where we were a year ago. And I think each year that we put this up, we've seen a continuing improvement of our staffing status by the time we get ready to enter into winter break. So I just want to, again, thank everybody for the work. That concludes the superintendent's report, Madam President.
Thank you. And with that, I would love to welcome the Southern FFA and the troop, what are you, Troop 249 from Edgewater for attendance tonight. Would you please stand? Thank you all. Thank you all for your participation and thank you for your continued advocacy for the areas of interest. And I think you all are doing an amazing job at making sure that we bring attention to the agriculture education. So thank you. And with that, we will have the superintendent's recommendation for fiscal year 2027 operating and capital budgets.
All right, so before I get started, members of the board, I want to really extend my sincere appreciation for the people back here. As you all know, we are very intentional in trying to make sure that when we present to you all into this community, that it is representative of the excellence that I think you all want us to really do in terms of how we educate our children. And Matt Stansky, your finance team, we don't often have opportunities to recognize them. Can you all stand? Can you please stand? All right, so thank you all. These are the people that have, in essence, protected our school district and has put us in really a solid position, even in what I believe is going to be some dark times for folks, not only here in the state of Maryland, but across this country. And out to our cabinet, we all work together. You'll hear more about that in a few minutes, but I wanted to acknowledge that team. So let's get into the presentation. President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, members of the board, elected officials, community members, families, and most of all, students. I greatly appreciate the opportunity this evening to talk about the work our team is doing on behalf of the more than 84,000 students we serve across our county every day, and to lay out the path I believe we should take to continue our momentum in the coming year. From sun up to sundown and beyond, our awesome team pours passion, energy, and commitment into helping every single student belong, grow, succeed. As a publicly funded entity, our school district acts taxpayers through the decisions and actions of county and state government to invest in the work we are doing. Our residents, whether they have students in our schools or not, their hard-earned money, and we promise to use it wisely to better the lives of every single student we are charged with educating. In that process, we're strengthening the very foundations of our communities and helping to ensure that tomorrow's workforce, neighbors, and leaders are prepared to thrive in a globally competitive world. There are those who believe in the misguided notion that school districts are vast wastelands of public funding, black holes where money is poured in and the results do not follow. In 3 years that I have served here as your superintendent, the leaders of our county have, very fortunately for us, not subscribed to that theory. They have instead chosen a far different course, one rooted in the belief echoed by Benjamin Franklin that an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. In the last 3 fiscal years, our county executive and county council have worked with us to provide $148 million above the minimum legally required amount. Theirs has been a bipartisan display of faith and trust, and I stand here tonight to say to you with incredible pride that the employees of the Anne Arundel County Public Schools are providing the residents of this county not just with a solid return on investment, but one that is measurable and is strengthening our students and the future of our county. We invested first and foremost in our people, and that it will be a theme because they are the pillars of everything we undertake. It is their work that has resulted in better educational outcomes for students. Programs don't produce results, people do. I want to be clear that this work and our results are not about Mark Bedell. Superintendents come and go. They are about a dedicated team of 12,000 people strong in schools, divisions, and offices across our county. At Crofton High School, for example, 2026 National School Counselor of the Year, Danielle Crankfield, is motivated by an internal drive to provide every student with the ability to do whatever they want in this world. In particular, she has worked to ensure students are aware of advanced placement courses and feel welcomed in them. In the process, closing equity gaps in access to those courses. By the way, she's an AACPS graduate, one of hundreds who have come home to serve the school district that helped shape their own lives. At Belle Grove Elementary School, 2025 AACPS Teacher of the Year and Maryland Teacher of the Year finalist, Jacqueline Sanderson helps multilingual learners not just with their English, but as she says, in building resilience, gaining new skills, and developing a broader understanding of the world. At MacArthur Middle School, Maryland's Secondary School Principal of the Year, Kelly McVeigh, is creating new expectations, engaging the community and partners, and building relationships to accelerate learning for both teachers and students. Her approachable nature and commitment to excellence have made her a trusted and respected presence among students, staff, and families, and to continue in an effort to drive her school forward. At Four Seasons and Lothian Elementary Schools, custodians Louis Queen and Louis Watkins, with more than 100 years of service between them, do more than make their building sparkle. They are role models who help their students shine as well. At Hillsmere and Point Pleasant Elementaries, Food and Nutrition Services Associates Patricia Turner and Kathleen Brucci, each of whom have been part of our AACPS family for more than 40 years, help ensure that children receive nutritious and delicious meals every day, thus fueling their bodies for learning. And at each of our 47 community schools, stellar program managers build and enhance partnerships with organizations and government agencies that support families and students alike. In the last 3 budgets, we have fought hard for our people. Our county has invested sufficient funding for us to provide the vast majority of our workforce with pay enhancements totaling 18% in that time, decreasing vacancies across our district and increasing the quality of education we provide for students. We rank second in the state, for example, in salary for teachers on the first step of the career ladder. Increases such as those have helped us see retention rates of nearly 96% for instructional staff and more than 94% for non-instructional staff. These are numbers that are just simply not heard of in many school districts, and most certainly in school districts that I have worked in over my 26-year career. We've also invested in high-quality instructional materials, implementing the Reveal math curriculum in our elementary schools 2 years ago and following it with the core knowledge language arts curriculum last year. We've invested in a new learning management system, bringing Canvas on board this year to create a single portal for teachers to house lessons and grades and an easier path for those same teachers to communicate with students and families. We've invested in middle school athletics, restoring an avenue for students that had been missing from our county for decades. From soccer to basketball, track, flag football, unified bocce, we are enhancing school and community pride and providing students with after-school activities in which they need to reach certain academic standards to participate. You only need to walk through a middle school to see the pride this has reinvigorated among students and staff alike. At our secondary schools, we have invested time and effort to eradicate gatekeeping mindsets that have held back far too many students for far too long. You've heard this before, but I will again present it for the record. I stand here as an educator with 3 advanced degrees who was never, ever invited to take a single advanced placement course in the high school I attended. It wasn't because I didn't have the ability. It was because people, for whatever reason, just didn't see it in me. We have to see that it in our students. No matter how our students show up, it's our job to meet them where they are as individuals, show them where they can go, and then help them get there. And here's why. The number of students taking AP courses increased 32% from my first year to last year, offering clear evidence that if we open the doors of opportunity, students will walk through them. But our students aren't just walking through those doors. They're successfully kicking them down. Over the same time period, the number of AP exams we administered has increased 41%, and the number of exams with scores of 3 or higher sufficient to earn college credit has risen by 54% to where our district now is at 67%. And normally when you add additional students like we've done, you generally have a regression in your data. That did not happen here in Anne Arundel County, and it's something we all should be proud of. The student group data is even better. Enrollment of African American students in AP courses was up nearly 80% from my first year to last year, and the number of exams scoring a 3 or higher was up 181%. Among Hispanic students, enrollment was up 43%, and the number of exams earning scores of 3 or higher rose 127% in that same time period. I want to commend all of our educators, all of our folks working in these offices to really make this a priority. It is paying huge dividends. Some of those enrollment increases have been driven by our investment in providing the pre-SAT and SAT assessments free of charge to high school students during the school day. That has allowed us to eliminate barriers to access, establish pathways to help students take advantage of scholarships and other opportunities, and identify more students with AP potential. Our pre-SAT test takers have gone from 6,800 3 years ago to more than 15,600 last year, a 130% increase dwarfed by the 213% increase among African American students. More impressively, the number of students who pre-SAT scores have been used to deem them college and career ready under state guidelines
has grown from just under 1,800 3 years ago to more than 6,300 last year. We've seen smaller but still notable increases in both data points on the actual SAT. Our free pre-SAT administration also opened doors for scholarship opportunities for our students and helps us to better identify students with AP potential. Those numbers are up by more than 10 percentage points in every category for which we have data over the last 2 years. We've invested in the expansion of opportunities for our students through avenues such as dual enrollment, signature programs, career technical education, internships, and apprenticeships. These options allow students to explore and then pursue their post-secondary pathways of choice, whether in college or directly in a career. The return on taxpayer investment can also be seen in state testing, where there has been improvement in the percentage of proficient students at all levels across our school district. The most recent scores on the Maryland Comprehensive Assessment Program, better known as MCAP, showed increases at elementary, middle, and high in English language arts and at elementary and middle school in math. The lone drop came in high school math, where we changed a course sequence in some of our schools to align with the state's course sequence, and we simply did not get the results we anticipated. I've also owned that decision as superintendent. We did get the results we anticipated on the Maryland report card star ratings, and we now have 15 five-star schools. That's a 36% increase from a year ago and a 67% increase from 3 years ago when the current criteria was put in place. But here's an even better indicator. 7% of the schools in Maryland are five-star rated schools. Here in Anne Arundel County, 13% of our schools are five-star schools. In addition, 53% of our schools have 4 or 5 stars, and 95% have 3 or more. That's well above the 86% of schools across the state with 3 stars or more. Those are important, are data points that should stir pride in everyone in our county. Those star ratings are based in large part on academic measures, but there are 2 other areas that I must mention because they point to the work of everyone across our district to make our classrooms and schoolhouses more welcoming places. MSDE annually administers climate surveys to students and educators that provide data on safety, environment, community, relationships, and instructional support. Our scores are better today in all 19 measured areas than they were 3 years ago. The improved climate and a focused emphasis on attendance are resulting in more students being in our schools on a regular basis. The evidence of that can be found in our chronic absenteeism rate, where the percentage of students missing 10% or more of the school year fell from 25.3 3 years ago to 19.9 last year. Here's one place where a drop in data is actually great news. We all know that the needs of every student who shows up at our schools vary. Sometimes our students simply need someone in their lives who can say, "I believe in you," and help them see the promise of a brighter future. That's why we have invested the time and effort to stand up the Office of Mentoring Services. We provide release time for employees to meet with mentees and have extended the offer to other individuals and groups to make a difference in the lives of our students. We are one of the few districts, if not the only, in the state of Maryland to have such an office in place. Now, make no mistakes about it. There is plenty more work for all of us to do and more improvement we need to make, both inside and outside of our classrooms. Our school district, however, is the one that is being recognized across the state and nation for the work we are doing to improve student outcomes. Our county is realizing great dividends on its investment. I said when I arrived here that I believe we could be a premier school district in this country. And I believe tonight that we are on the precipice of that greatness. This also supports the presentation that we presented to you all on Monday, where we are now on the brink of being a top 5 ranked school district in elementary and middle school, and we are working to move our high schools in that area too. So again, there's a lot to be proud of. It is critically important for everyone to understand that to get there, we will continue to stand firmly on the side of creating brighter futures for every single one of our students in every classroom in our school district. Belong, grow, succeed is not a catchy phrase or marketing gimmick. It is a community-driven mindset that permeates not only our strategic plan, but everything we do every day. Success cannot happen without growth, which is impossible without the development of a sense of belonging in every child who walks through our doors. Every person we employ and every family and community member involved in and impacted by our school system. As we take those next steps, however, we must do so fully aware of the fiscal uncertainty that swirls throughout our county, state, and nation. Over the last several years, we have crafted budgets aimed at long-term sustainability while talking openly about the tougher economic times that were on the horizon. Well, those days are here now. Enrollment across the state is down, and we are no exception. Our official enrollment for the current school year reflects a drop of 771 students. That's not as dramatic as it is in many other school districts. Inflationary pressures are another part of that economic reality. It simply costs more to do business today than it did a year ago. As just one example, we estimate we will need $1.6 million more next year than we budgeted this year just for electricity to power all of our facilities. With that perspective in the forefront of our minds, our team carried out an extensive review of every line of this budget. We asked what was working, what could be done differently, and what could be eliminated. Every recommendation we reviewed was sound and worthwhile, but we just can't ask for everything. We have chosen prudent and responsible courses in my prior 3 budgets, and we have chosen that course again here. The $1.9 billion operating budget recommendation I present to this board tonight recognizes the fiscal constraints that exist, and it focuses on our people and the progress they have helped us to achieve rather than embarking on a slate of new programs. Our cabinet, budget teams, and I cut 75% of the program enhancement recommendations that were presented to us, not because we didn't want to do them, but because we just can't do them. Again, we have chosen people over programs. This recommendation is $116 million more than our current budget, with 49% of that, $56.6 million, allocated to compensation and benefit increases, as well as critical additional positions. There are 205.3 positions in this recommendation, and more than 96% of them interact with students and families every single day. This recommendation contains sufficient funding for a step or step equivalent for eligible employees and a 2% cost of living adjustment for all employees. Now, please hear me on this. I wanted to do more, but not at the expense of having to lay people off. This recommendation does not lay off a single employee here in Anne Arundel County. Let me say that again. This recommendation does not lay off a single employee. And for people who may have a short memory, there were a number of school districts last year that had to lay people off. There's going to be a number of school districts that will have to lay more people off. And we made it an intentional focus as we built out our budget to protect the employees of Anne Arundel County Public Schools. We may have to make some other difficult decisions down the road, but our prudent measures have landed us in a much better place than some school districts around the state and nation. We cannot divert from them now. The compensation package in this recommendation also contains nearly $2.7 million for national board certification stipends as more of our educators earn that distinction. I've also included more than $510,000 to fund pay increases for temporary support assistants. Our TSAs work directly with students with disabilities and are critical to providing additional necessary support to them. While the total number of students enrolled in our district is down, the number of students with disabilities enrolled in our schools, along with the complexity of their needs, continues to rise. We are serving 11,150 students with disabilities this year, a 17% increase over the number 5 years ago. This recommendation allocates $9.7 million for 82.2 positions, 40% of the total positions we are recommending to help meet student needs. These include 24 positions at our comprehensive schools, 13.8 positions to expand specialized instruction, and 12 positions in our Birth to 5 program. Our reorganization of the Division of Specialized Instruction and Early Intervention Services has been done with the mindset that students with disabilities must be general education students first and have access to academic experiences that are differentiated to their specific abilities and needs. That's why we're realigning part of our developmental center program within our existing resources to open the Marley Glenn Center at Severn Run High School next fall. Students ages 16 to 21 will receive instruction in a wing of the school where they will have access to more innovative programming, expanded curriculum, and enhanced inclusion opportunities as part of a school within a school model that is the first of its kind in the state of Maryland. The new environment will not only maximize college, career, and community readiness while reinforcing independence, but it will provide opportunities for Severn Run students to interact with their peers with disabilities. There are 2 additional new educational opportunities for students that merit mentioning here. This recommendation includes $4.1 million for the New Village Academy Public Charter School, which will open in Annapolis Mall this fall. I am excited to see how the innovative approach that New Village plans to take and how it will benefit students who have not found success in traditional educational settings. I am also excited about the Carver Early Education Center, our county's 4th such facility, which will open in Crofton in August. I've included $1.1 million for 8.5 positions and other necessities at the center, which will be able to accommodate 120 pre-kindergarten students. This recommendation allocates $12 million to fund mandates under the Blueprint for Maryland's Future Law. That includes more than $6 million for funding at our 47 community schools, where we continue to forge family and community partnerships that help students socially, emotionally, and academically. We must also continue our work to help develop English learners and assist their families. This is an area in which staffing has lagged far behind the need, and we have been trying to catch up. My recommendation includes more than $900,000 for 10 English language development positions in our schools and $120,000 for the conversion of 6 bilingual facilitators from 10-month to 12-month positions to better assist families year-round. We all know that student success does not happen without support outside the classroom. The work that our Division of Student Services has done and continues to do to address the social and emotional needs of students is critical to the increases in student achievement we are seeing. That work is even more heroic when you consider that we remain above recommended caseload levels for school counselors, school psychologists, and social workers. There is funding in my recommendation for 5 positions: 2 school counselors, 1 school psychologist, one social worker, and one pupil personnel worker to add to our team in these areas. I will be the first to say that it is not enough, but we must continue to chip away at this issue while maintaining the perspective of the fiscal reality that confronts us. The reality of school construction is such that, much like the electricity expenses I spoke of earlier, it simply costs more to upgrade and renovate our schools than it did several years ago. This board has already given preliminary approval to a $231.7 million capital budget for fiscal year 2027. As you begin consideration of it again in this process tonight, I simply remind everyone that despite the progress we continue to make in creating more state-of-the-art learning environments, we still have the 11th oldest portfolio of buildings in the state. More than 59% of the capital budget, almost $136 million, is allocated to construction of the new Old Mill High School and Old Mill Middle School North, as well as study and design for work at Ruth Parker Easton School, Rivera Beach Elementary School, and Arundel Middle School. Also included is nearly $32.9 million for building system renovations, $6 million for pre-kindergarten expansion projects, and $6.5 million for a critically needed bus facility and lot. This board, our elected officials, our staff, families, and students should be extremely proud of the work we've done and the progress we have made over the last 3 years. Together, we've taken a very good school district and enhanced it significantly. We are thriving, and people around the state and beyond are taking notice. The resources available to us in the coming year may be limited, but our commitment to continue the momentum we have built is not. This recommendation reflects balance and perspective, and I am confident we can meet the challenges ahead and keep our school district moving forward. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go in roll call order for anyone that may have any comments. I don't see any lights. All right, Ms. McFarland.
Oh, thank you for your work in this. I was happy to see the pay increase for TSAs, so thank you for that. And it looks like we're making some progress. There's some things that I will be looking for as I dive deeper into it, but thank you for your work so far.
Ms. Pulliam?
There's so much great work being done here. There really isn't any part of that needs comments. The results speak for itself. The only thing that I would add, Dr. Bedell, in terms of return on investment is that what I don't think we look at sometimes is when we have our CTE programs, these students are getting a certificate and making a salary that the average person doesn't make before they graduate. And maybe that's something that we can capture, but it really is another success of return on investment. Not all students go to college. Some go to college and they have this certificate, but making this salary before they get their graduation certificate is also something that I think we should celebrate. And I hear nothing but wonderful stories about them. So thank you.
Dr. Tobin.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Dr. Bedell. I'm very grateful to see your focus on people. This is a business of human capital in every way. It's fueled by people, and it's about growing people. So I think that always has to be at the core of what we do. I too was very grateful to see that you found some space to raise TSA salaries. I know that's been an ongoing issue. I also was extremely happy to see money put aside for converting bilingual facilitators to 12 months. I know that that is a huge and ongoing need. And I just want to say the work that our bilingual facilitators do is truly remarkable. Like my colleagues, I'll be digging into this, but I know this was a long and arduous process, and congratulations to the entire team and to you. Thank you.
Ms. McDermott.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Thank you for your fabulous work. Thank you to the team. You guys are amazing. This is the problem with coming after Dr. Tobin is she says everything that I think I'm going to say. So I'm just really excited to see the bilingual facilitators move from 10 to 12 months. That's really meaningful for the schools in District 4. And thank you.
Mr. Silkworth.
Thank you. So I really would like to thank Dr. Bedell, Matt Stansky, the entire finance team, and the entire staff. But I also want to thank all of our teachers and staff and our students for the great things that they have done. We are in such a great space. Having said that, I have heard, as we all have, that this may be one of those lean years. It is a lean year when it comes to funds, whether from the state or local level. It's no secret that I've always said our budget must be a budget that advocates for the needs of our students so that they will, in fact, be able to belong, grow, and succeed and continue to do the great things that Dr. Bedell outlined. I say that because the future of our students should not be aligned with the years in which they require our resources, our help and our guidance, and our full support. No class of graduating seniors or any student should be denied what they need because of a lean budget year. Having said that, Dr. Bedell, I think what you've outlined is a very fair budget. We do have our work cut out for us. We have to take a look at that and dive into it, and we will do that. This board will evaluate this budget, as we always do. We may make some changes, some additions. We will arrive at a budget for next year, which, as I said, in my mind, must address the students' needs and not bare minimum needs. But I think you've done that, and I'm very happy to see that. When we do make that final determination, it will be our budget for our students and our people. And it will represent what our students need, what our teachers and staff need to be able to continue to belong, grow, and succeed. Once again, I just want to thank you so much, Dr. Bedell. Since you've been here, look at the data. We've advocated for the needs. Our funding source has come through with an awful lot. We've used it wisely, and the data shows that the investment is paying so many dividends. And so once again, I thank you so much, and thanks for giving us this work to do, by the way. We'll do it for you.
Mr. Morgan.
Sorry for stepping away for a second. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of tough to go. It's one of the last ones. Echo some of my colleagues said. I want to thank you for the transparency, coming and saying, letting, not only us, but the community know this might be a little bit different every year. So we appreciate that. And especially when we see, English learners having very difficult time due to events and due to certain things going on. It's great to see that extra support for them. And so I'm very excited for that as well, especially after seeing some scary data with enrollment and everything. And so, yeah, thank you for that. And I'm excited to read the big, beautiful binder budget.
Well, Dr. Bedell, thank you for, and the staff, thank you very much for this expansive budget. One of the things that I want to say, and I think the slogan continued to be that you chose people over programs. And what I will say to that is that programs matter, but without the right people to execute the programs, then the programs cannot succeed. And so I think as we look into the budget, I challenge each of my colleagues to think about what it means to not only build capacity for human capital, but also how do we expand it and keep rising to the expectations that we have for this district. Lastly, I am excited about and will continue to be excited about our pre-K learning and seeing what it will take for us to go from the blueprint recommendations for our early childhood learning center at Carver Elementary. I think it's great that we're getting an additional 127, and I think that we're still about 1,800 behind on what we need. So what I'm saying, the reason I say that is because this is a dent, but it's a long way to go from what we need for our early childhood development. So thank you for at least to putting a dent in that, not to pun dent being anything other than that. And with that, unless any other board members, I see no lights, so we'll move on. And Dr. Bedell, I'll give you final comments.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I see some of our educators out here, and I want to thank you all for coming tonight and just being here to hear this out. What's important for me to really share with you all and to put this on the record on our thinking as we built out this budget. There's been a number of times where I have gone into schools, I have run into educators in grocery stores. I remember my last visit at Belvedere Elementary. I went to speak to a Girl Scout troop, and the lead plant leader of or facilitator of the cleaning the building said, I want you to meet. I just want, first of all, thank you for what you've been doing, and we do feel that this board and this administration cares about, its custodians. I knew you were going to come tonight, which I don't know how she knew because it wasn't, but in any event, she wanted me to meet her people, and I went over and I met her people. But here's a common story that I've been hearing. Anne Arundel County was one of the districts that got pretty hit hard with federal layoffs. I got employees, whether they're in central office or in our schools, where they went from 2 incomes to 1. And the same can be said for a number of families. So when we built this budget, we knew that we didn't lay anybody off last year. We saw a number of districts laying people off. And we said we have to protect our employees because, again, you all are the reason why we're getting the results that we're getting. And I just don't, again, I don't want people to have short memories. I came in my first year, 6% and 2%, 6% COLA, 2%. Following year, 4% and a 2%. And I've tried to be committed to letting people know that we're going to do everything to try to close these gaps against other systems. I think we've done a really good job of that. And we still have some work to do because my ultimate goal is we want to be one. I want to be one in beginning and one in the ending in terms of how we're compensating our people. But again, I know people may be disappointed about a 2% COLA and a 2% step. It is far better than the reality of what a lot of people are dealing with right now in this country. And I just want people to maintain that perspective, because if we go and we say we're going to give more, then I need for people who are going to go out here advocating for much more, you tell me who I'm laying off, because that's the only way you're going to be able to do it. With that being said, I want to thank you all for hearing me out.
Thank you. All right, next up is item 5.02, long range facility master plan.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I will have Dr. Heiser and his team will come up and they will present the long range facility master plan.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell, members of the board, President Dent. This has been a long time coming, and it is a tough, probably the best budget presentation I've ever seen to follow that. And so we will do our best. I know this has been long awaited, this long range facilities master plan, and we're excited to present it to you tonight. Let me begin by way of introductions. Bill Heiser, Chief Operations Officer.
Kyle Roof, Executive Director of Facilities.
Jeff Hagan, Director of Planning, Design, and Construction.
And I'm Patrick Davis, a Principal with Perkins Eastman.
And tonight, we're going to hear from Mr. Davis from Perkins Eastman, and we're happy to have him present to the board tonight. And following that presentation on our long-range facilities plan, we're happy to answer any questions. And so with that, I'll turn this over to Mr. Davis.
Great. Well, first off, I want to say thank you for having me here tonight. Excited to dig in and talk about this, and hope you guys have great holiday plans coming up. I also just want to really sort of start by saying thanks to Jeff and Kyle and team. It's been a real privilege to work with them over the last year. They're a really fantastic team, and honestly, one of the best groups of folks we've been working with around the country. So I'm going to dive in. We're going to go through a number of different things here today. As COO just said, it's very difficult to follow that budget presentation, so we'll do our best. It was really inspiring to see you're valuing people, and hopefully this presentation will show how buildings can support those people in the long term. So we'll generally go through an overview and sort of purpose of the long range plan. We'll talk about some updates and what happened since the last time we did a major plan, which is in 2015. We'll talk about some of the goals of this 2025 study. Dig in a little bit into the process. What are the factors that are making sort of decision-making drivers, and then talk about some of the recommendations in the plan. So just to start and sort of lay the foundation, as part of this process, we looked at every single school, so 123 schools, plus 6 additional sort of administrative sites. Overall, that's obviously, as you all know, a large district. A significant replacement value of close to a little bit over $8 billion. So we looked at every single campus across the portfolio. We'll dig into the different data points we looked at through our analysis, through our assessments. We had a lot of folks in the field and on top of buildings. So we'll dig into that. But it's sort of building off of the theme of people. Those buildings are not just buildings. They're supporting almost 85,000 students across the portfolio. You all know the demographics and makeup of your student population, but it's an important reminder for us as we start thinking about this. We can get very technical around systems and assets, but at the heart of it, buildings are supporting programs, people, and staff and students in the building. So we always want to ground ourselves in who those students are in the buildings. Again, just sort of building off the great work that's been happening since 2015. As mentioned, the team has been busy since 2015, which was your last major facility plan. Since that point, there were 3 new construction buildings, 6 replacement projects, 8 major building renovations, 9 additions, and then a 9% increase in seats offered across the portfolio to align with the enrollment needs across the portfolio. So that's a lot of great work in many ways. This plan is how do we continue that momentum, continue that investment, continue that focus on supporting all of the schools across the district. So to sort of highlight that a little more, really goals of the study and overview and the purpose was to could sort of update that 2015 report. That's at this point 10 years old. So updating with new data, updating with new approach, new thinking. Then we want to make sure we're not just looking at today, we're looking at this as a long-term plan for the next 10 years. So we'll start thinking about how our assessments are informing future decision-making. We wanted to really build a transparent and inclusive plan and process. So I think all of you have probably seen the report. It's robust with a lot of data information, but really making sure people understand all of the foundational data that's informing recommendations. And then, as I just mentioned, the data that we're going to talk about tonight is how does that inform decision making so that you can stand behind the decisions that you're making around capital investments. So just go a little bit into process. It's hard to summarize over a year and a half's worth of work in a few slides, but we'll do our best. Really starting with a strong foundation of the sort of the pillars of the project, which is aligning with the broader strategic plan, goal 5 in particular. As we mentioned, we want to build off of the information and the work that went into the 2015 plan. We supplemented that with a lot of new assessments and analysis, which we'll dig into. And then bringing on top of that and bringing it all together is through stakeholder engagement, getting the voice of the stakeholders across the district. I won't go through every single month, but there was a significant amount of building assessments and collection of data. We walked every single campus with 2 different groups of teams, which we'll talk about, a series of engineers and a series of architects and planners looking at a lot of different aspects of the building. Then we wanted to make sure that we bring all these different things together to inform the community. We'll talk about a web tool that was released to share information with the community. And then, the last few months have been how do we bring it all together to make informed decision making, and here tonight to present some of those. So just to build on that stakeholder engagement, I'm glad the animation works. This is just a sample of the tool with our partners at WXY, who was a member of our team, where it was really critical that we, with a district your size, set a foundational understanding of the conditions that currently exist across the portfolio. So what we're showing here is a quick animation of a web tool that was released. Allows folks to understand conditions at a district level, or if they want to drill down very specifically into their school to understand the different components of the assessments, whether it's facility conditions assessments or educational adequacy or energy consumption. Folks had the ability to really sort of understand at a broad scale at a district lens, also, as I mentioned, at a very particular school lens. But embedded in here, there was some survey questions, understanding sort of priorities from the community. In addition to that, through the communication channels with the team, engage school staff around sort of priorities for what we call educational adequacy, which we'll dig into. So a number of different touch points with different stakeholders to really inform the future decision making in the plan. So speaking of those main sort of data points and sort of drivers, there were a number of different factors that we've looked at throughout the study. They're sort of for simplicity's sake, sort of summarized here. We'll dig into the contents of most of these as we go. The first one is building conditions. Obviously, as we're thinking about facility master plan, we want to understand the conditions of the building. And the typical way to do that is through facility condition assessments, which inform what's called a facility condition index, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of the building, the systems, the roof, electrical, things like that. We also layered on top of that what we call educational adequacy, which is more of an assessment of understanding how well are the buildings supporting a 21st century learning environment. So thinking about classroom size and organization of buildings. So layer that in. Obviously thinking about building age in two different forms, the original construction year, but also things like modified building age. As the team has done projects, we can start to think about the impact on building age. Obviously, as we think about long-term sustainability, energy use, so understanding energy consumption across the portfolio. Are there particular buildings that have systems that are maybe inefficient, but generally looking at what we call energy use intensity. You mentioned the investment in early childhood, thinking about where that perhaps is needed more in the future. So thinking about early childhood demand and obviously the facility implications of that. And then broadly, the funding, right? Obviously, we need to think about the funding that's going to be needed to deliver these facility improvements across the portfolio. So just drilling down a little bit into the details of each of those. So starting again with facility condition. And again, that's typically measured, as we'll show here in the next slide, in a metric called facility condition index. But through our partners at AECOM, we had a series of engineers go out to every single building in the portfolio, looking at a number of different aspects ranging from the structure of the building, the enclosure, the roof, the building systems like mechanical systems, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. So really all of the sort of core components of the building, really the nuts and bolts of the building. And they did a series of things. They looked at current conditions, they inventoried the assets, but also importantly, as we think about this as a 10-year plan, we started to factor in things like what we call remaining useful life. So we're not just looking at the condition of a HVAC system today. We're starting to look at where is that condition going to be in 5 years, 10 years, and how do we start to forecast and make thoughtful planning. So really comprehensive assessments. And again, that facility condition index, which is really, it's an industry standard sort of metric to understand conditions. What it does in sort of the simplest form is looking at the needs of the building divided by the replacement value of that building. It gives us a ratio. It's a little bit backwards for most of Silica data. The lower the score is actually the better. So you want a really low FCI score. And what we found, again, thanks to the great work and the investment you all have made in your buildings, the current conditions, most of your buildings are falling in the fair, good, or excellent category. I'm privileged to work across the country, and I can say this is not a common theme that we see across most districts. You guys have done a great job investing in maintaining your buildings. We do see a few schools and sort of buildings in that poor and deficient, which is obviously standard. It's important to note the deficient buildings. None of those are actually schools. Those are support buildings in the district. But it's also really, as we think about this as a long-term plan, the far right column is actually, perhaps where I should go, which is if investments are not made, buildings don't get better with age, right? It's not wine. Things tend to get worse as they age. Systems age, they sort of expire, need to be replaced. So we start to see, as if no investment's made, we start to see a shift where we start to see more and more schools falling in that poor to fair category. So again, this is not, I don't think you have any intention of not investing in your buildings, but as we sort of think about a do nothing scenario, you can start to see the facility conditions start to deteriorate in years. And that's a factor of just systems aging and sort of need of replacements. So critical to think about how do we maintain the success and sort of continue investing in the buildings. So the other sort of major sort of building assessment, we had a group of architects and planners go out to all the campuses again. And we did what's called an educational adequacy assessment. And it's different in the sense that while the facility condition index is looking at the HVAC systems, electrical, things like that, this is more looking at how well are these buildings supporting teaching and learning. So we're looking at things like classroom size. We're looking at things like access to daylight, furniture, how well it organizes the building, the arrival experience. Is it clear where to go? Are there proper outdoor amenities? So it's really trying to think about that experience of students in the building. Obviously, instruction has changed a lot and continues to change. When we were all in school, we were probably in rows of desks. Classrooms are a lot different. So we're trying to make sure the buildings are able to support that dynamic teaching. And to that point, we're through the data analysis, we started to see, which is a pretty common trend, the older the building, the worse they were scoring in the assessments. So typically classrooms are smaller, maybe they have inadequate access to daylight, different things that are contributing to a poorer score. So as we think about sort of investment strategies, factoring in building age will be a critical part so we can make sure we're not just improving the systems through the modernizations and investment in buildings, you're improving the learning environment as well. So, this is an important finding to understand that there is a direct relationship between age of the building and that adequacy of the building. So starting to think about incorporating this into the future capital planning will be critical. I won't drill into there's a lot here and I won't drill into all the details. Essentially, as we think about sustainability and sort of the efficiencies of buildings, you all have done a great job over the last and through the investment in sustainable systems and building enclosures and whatnot. The district has brought down the energy use by 30% since 2013, which is fantastic. But there's still some work to do. A number of years ago, there was a study that sort of set targets in what's called an EUI, which is energy use intensity, which is basically the consumption divided by the square footage of the building. Set targets in the low to mid 20s for an EUI target. So as you continue to invest in buildings, there's some recommendations in the plan for really focusing on systems to make sure you're investing in sustainable systems. So as you're replacing individual systems, but also through the major capital modernization programs, start to make sure and continue to make sure the buildings are sustainable so that you are redirecting money back into the classroom and all the budget conversation you just had. We're not spending money on utilities and things like that. So another critical thing, again, sort of thinking about that building age is, again, it's first off highlighting the great work that's been done since 2015. What we're showing here is if you didn't make investments, that sort of dotted pink or red line, that's what the median age would average age of the building and average age of the schools in the portfolio would be. So you started in 2015 around 26.8 years. That's sort of the average age. If you had done nothing, the average age of the portfolio would have increased to close to 37 years. But thanks to the investments you all have made, you're able to keep that average age relatively flat, a little bit of an increase up to 29.7, which is great. So we'd sort of adjust the modified age based on the investments. As you modernize the building, we kind of reset that clock. But as we think about moving forward, continuing this will be critical to make sure you maintain that average age. So it's going to take about roughly the size of an elementary school investment, modernization, and a middle school investment per year to keep that sort of consistency up of maintaining your modified age. A few more data slides and we'll I think, jump into the recommendations. As we talked about, as you just mentioned, the budget presentation, the importance and continued investment in early childhood is critical. So as part of the plan, we are thinking through the sort of facility impacts of supporting the EC programs. So the map on the right is showing the demand. We can start to see in the sort of upper Northwest, there's higher demands, waitlist totals for early childhood. As part of the plan, really making sure early childhood is part of the capital strategy for expansion of early childhood seats. So the three areas where the highest needs were Meade, Arundel, and MacArthur middle school feeder patterns. So that works its way into the plan. As you'll see, there's recommendations for early childhood investment from the facility standpoint. And then we can't do anything, obviously, any of the capital projects without the necessary funding. So generally, the plan's recommending on average between $160 to $240 million per year of capital investment, which, as the superintendent mentioned, you guys are doing a great job next year. But what this plot is showing and what this chart is showing is essentially costs are increasing, right? I think the superintendent mentioned construction is not getting cheaper. So pulling the IAC factors, we really started looking at what the values were in 2016. So the far left box or sort of bar is showing what the allocation was for you all from the districts plus the state. And the green line is showing if you just sort of escalated that based on the construction market, that the 2016 value turns into 232 million by 2026. So while you're increasing sort of investment over time, it actually hasn't kept up with the inflation rate. So obviously this is a trend that's going to keep continuing. Construction's never going to get cheaper. So even just keeping up with what you were doing in terms of sort of the value of your investment, keeping pace with that is going to be critical, and actually increasing the funding over time to maintain the level you had in 2016. So jumping into the recommendations, and then we'll open up for questions and conversation. The investments are broken down into a few different categories, which I think you've been presented to in the past. Generally, schools are grouped into capital investments. Those are major, building renewals, replacements, renovations. Those are the high investment, major modernization projects, carry a significant cost, but obviously have a huge impact. There's a group of projects that are more in the capital maintenance, which are smaller in nature, but are really critical. Replacement of systems, typically when there's a fewer, 2 or 3 systems deficient in a building, creating a project and scoping a project to address those, and obviously the early childhood conversion, as I mentioned. So we recommended a number of factors led to the different recommendations, including all the data we just talked about around, maintaining that modified building age, the facility condition index, educational adequacy scores, the energy efficiency, thinking about regional distribution. But ultimately, it boils down to over the next 10 years, between $1.6 and $2.4 billion being invested over that 10-year period. The range there is really sort of depending on when you actually initiate the projects. Obviously, the later you start, the more things cost. So that's phase one. And then if additional funding comes, those are sort of the priority projects. If additional funding becomes available, we've identified a phase two of another $1.1 to $1.7 billion worth of investment over that 10-year period. So just I won't read every single one of these; they're detailed in the report, but just to highlight, some of the major categories. So the priority one list includes a significant number of those major capital investment projects, the renewals or replacements, major projects. Most of these would go through a feasibility study to sort of determine the final scope. The next, biggest chunk are those capital and maintenance. Again, the plan's not recommending if you need to replace a light switch. That's typically something that's done on a sort of annual budget basis. These are more major sort of system replacements paired with other sort of deficiencies across the buildings, and then the ECE conversions that we mentioned. So again, trying to align with some of the demand to make sure the buildings are supporting the programs. And then again, that priority two list, again, these are things that could be done, but maybe fall a little bit lower than priority one, and the funding becomes available, start to create the means and the ability to deliver on some of these. So again, highlighting the capital investment candidates there, and also some of those capital and maintenance projects that could be done if additional funding is identified. And last slide here, and then we'll open up for questions. So generally, sort of broadly, there is some system-wide recommendations, but obviously, as you mentioned, sort of budget constraints happening around the country. always trying to find alternative sources for funding. If there's grants available, trying to dig into those. As we think about sort of the enrollment shifts, if there's, potential need for expansion, folding in some of the demographic planning analysis to make sure the school sites are able to accommodate that. As we mentioned, really trying to make sure as you're investing and thinking about the long-term portfolio, thinking about energy conservation measures so that, again, money is potentially redirected back into the classroom. One of the key things around the educational adequacy is what we call an educational specification, or EdSpec, which is essentially the sort of roadmap that architects get to design a building. It defines the number of rooms, how big they are. So as you all continue to sort of refine instructional approaches, making sure that EdSpec is aligned to meet those needs so that the building is supporting the vision and program. So continual updates, you all are doing that. You can start to see in that trend showing the EA and the year. So through the prototypes and the buildings you're investing in, you're doing that. Our recommendation is just continue to update those EdSpecs to align with 21st century standards. And then I didn't highlight this in the slides. One of the things we did a lot of analysis on work orders. So the sort of the lived experience on sort of how schools are putting in maintenance tickets. One of the things we start to see over the sort of analysis was a real investment in preventative maintenance, which is critical. And that's something you're going to have a little bit more investment in the front end, but really helps you in the back end so that you're able to sort of maintain systems a lot more. So just continue that focus on preventative maintenance. Your teams are doing great jobs in the field. We really enjoyed walking all the buildings. So just continue that upkeep and maintenance. So I will stop rambling and take any questions, and sorry for probably going over and probably too deep in some areas, but happy to take any questions.
So we're going to start the question off with Ms. Shawham. She's online, so we'll pull her up if you don't mind. Then we kick the questions off with her. Ms. Shawham, you're up.
Thank you, and thank you for a wonderful presentation. And I just thank you for being flexible with me tonight as I tried to be a parent and then also participate in this meeting. My husband was able to tempt me out so I could come home and get on a little earlier than I thought I might be able to this evening. So thank you for your flexibility. This presentation was fabulous. I was able to hear the entire thing. So thank you. I did have a couple of questions. First, regarding continued sustainability measures to drive down our power and light expenditure. Are there any specific strategies you would recommend for that? Or is it just doing what we are doing? And we do a lot of fabulous things in that area, but just doing more of that.
I think that's the heart of it, is to continue doing what you're doing in your investments. There's recommendations around sort of what we call the envelope, which is sort of maintaining make sure air doesn't leave the building. So and sort of ensuring roof replacements are done properly and on time. That's a really critical starting point, is make sure you're sort of maintaining the building through an envelope standpoint. But then as you think about the mechanical systems, that's really a main driver. I will say there's some operational things to obviously think about as you think about food service and whatnot. Just make sure systems, it's more of an operational thing, but make sure the food staff is not turning on the ovens right when they walk in the door at 5 a.m. That's stuff you can't always handle in the facility plan, but typically there's some operational things that go with it. But generally, it's do what you're doing. Just continue through the investments. You're going to keep improving the efficiencies. As you're doing these sort of capital maintenance and targeted projects, really focus on highly sustainable systems, which again, what you're doing. But it's very, the sort of natural, especially in a budget constrained environment, is like, you kind of want to just, what's the cheapest thing we can do? But it's probably not always the best thing to do. So really making sure you're making smart decisions, which again, you're doing. Just continue to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I know in years past, I've quoted amounts upwards of $18 million for a power and light bill. Think of all the wonderful things we can do if we can drive that down. And so I just want to applaud our team for continuing to do great work in that area. My second question before I'll yield back is having to do with the phase 1 recommendations. Were those listed in, I thought I saw them listed in a very specific order in the slide deck, but I thought I saw them in like alphabetical order here. Which which way is it? And then why, more specifically, with regard to Glen Burnie High School, how is it that that did not make like the number one project? Because we can all agree that building is gorgeous from the outside, but it does need a lot of work inside.
So phase 1 slide was alpha,
Yeah.
just like the report.
Oh, it was, okay.
Yeah.
So within the phase 1 recommendations, it would come down to a feasibility study on each to determine order, or is that more up to the board and the superintendent side of the house kind of figuring that out?
Largely depends on the flexibility of the superintendent and the board to make those recommendations. You guys do that through the CIP process.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much again for this presentation. Really grateful.
Yep, no problem. Happy holidays.
All right, Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Thank you for a terrific presentation. I have a couple of quick questions. One is, as I was looking through the report, the enrollment predictions, did those include the changes we saw this year?
No, the enrollment information that we used was the same thing we published in the EFMP. It didn't account for that decline this year.
Got it. Thank you. And the other question I had, as I recall, because obviously the 2015 report was done long before I got on the board, I believe there was a goal to focus a little more on middle schools in this report. Is that correct? Or was this just an across the board look at all?
We've largely found that our middle schools needed a little bit more love in this report.
Yeah.
And that kind of shows in the data and recommendations.
Okay, great, because I do think they do.
And I would just echo that. I mean, that came out of the data. It wasn't actually a driven sort of mandate. It actually just came out of the sort of data informed process.
Great. And I just want to applaud again the work that our entire facilities team does. And I know that we are doing a good job trying to put the money in where it makes more sense up front rather than on the back end. And I also know we're kind of fighting a structure that potentially from the state punishes us for that financially. So I'm glad we're doing what we're doing. I hope we can keep doing what we're doing. And if anybody from the state is listening, we are doing our level best to conserve resources by putting that money in up front. So thank you all, and thank you.
Mr. Silkworth.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the presentation. I had two questions. My first question was asked by Ms. Schauheim about Glen Burnie High School, probably the oldest high school building in our county. So I thank you for that response. My other question has to do with Southern High, which appears on the capital maintenance project. Now, Southern was built using the same plans that they used to build Lindale Junior High School, Northeast High School, and of course Southern. And my question is, I wonder why it's on a capital maintenance project as opposed to being capital investment.
So it shows up in the CIP as a systemic renovation for FY27. So we're requesting money for that project. It'll largely be similar to, as you mentioned, Lindale. Lindale's going through that same systemic renovation process.
So I guess I would suggest that I have some concerns about that because, and I think some of my fellow board members might agree. I mean, North County High School is right now where Lindale Junior High School. If I said Lindale Middle, I meant Lindale Junior High School. And if you take a look at Severn Run, take a look at Crofton, take a look at Severna Park High Schools, and then look at North County. It's not the same. And when it comes to Southern, as I said, Southern was built with the same plans that the current site where North County High School is, and it just concerns me. I think those students would deserve more than just what I might call a Band-Aid on that. So I just want to put that out there.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you. Ms. Shelham already touched on my one comment about energy use. I appreciate, really the focus on making sure that we're being energy efficient. As someone who's always turning out the lights in my house, that's important. Every little bit makes a difference, especially with the rising costs of energy. So I appreciate that focus. This is a huge undertaking. I appreciate your expertise in really predicting, looking forward ahead. It's really important work. So thank you for that. I also appreciate the web tool to let the community weigh in. That's really important to make sure that we're all heard in our communities. And I'm sure you probably got some things maybe you weren't as aware of as a result of that. So I appreciate that as well. And I also appreciate the focus on the decision driver of the pre-K and early childhood. So I think this is very well thought out, and I just thank you for your work.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Hello. Thank you so much for the presentation. It's awesome. Of course, we get the slides ahead. So, your presentation is much more informative. What am I trying to say? Much more informative. Wow. And so I want to echo my colleagues. Of course, I represent every student in this county, but I get to call Glen Burnie High School home not every day on the days I get to attend school. And so I feel, for the building age is very important. And so it's awesome to see Glen Burnie High on the list. And I know it's an alphabetical, but hopefully, feasibility wise, that is high up there because we do need some help, me and my friends at Glen Burnie. And so with that, of course, echo a little bit of Mr. Silkworth said. Southern High School is also a very old school. And both those schools have some very deserving students who would thrive in renovated buildings. One older high school in the southern part of the county I did not see, unless obviously I could be just missed it. South River High School. And I just want to ask first, has South River, been renovated recently and I'm not aware, or just kind of, the happenings on South River?
So in the CIP, we actually have it listed under the central complex. So it's multiple buildings similar to what we're doing at Old Mill. So we would have to look at that as a master plan.
Awesome. That's what I assumed. I just want to make sure everyone, public knows that, because those are all three some older schools that it's renovations. Aside from that, thank you for the presentation, and
Ms. Polio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. This has been so helpful, and especially coming up on the second year, or last year where it's a fire hose of information, and this year we were really able to dig in and understand. I want to thank my board colleagues, Mr. Silkworth and Mr. Morgan. I want you to know I did not pay them to say the things that they did, but I think the more awareness that we have of Southern High School and the schools in the Southern cluster, people are starting to be more aware that awareness is happening. When you talk about the 21st century learning environment, we're not there. I think we're the only school that doesn't have the second gym. We're the last school to get the turf field. So these are things that when you talk about belong, grow, and succeed, I often hear we're the last ones always if we get it at all. I want to thank you for putting Southern on the list. I also want to thank you for those out there for the time that you spent with me at Southern High School to walk through the halls to show me what that systemic renovation would cover. I just ask that when you talk about equity, we do think about those assets that others have that we don't have. And again, that the renovation, the systemic renovation is great, but we would really like to feel and come into a building that something that's similar to what other students are coming into. It's very, very important. But again, thank you, because your entire team has been nothing but wonderful explaining the different options, what we can and can't do. I do understand that the utilization is an issue too, and that there is policy in terms of rural types of schools. The other comment I would make is the South River. I thank you for that. I think they too might not have that second gym for the, it's my understanding, if there's any other school that does not have that second gym in terms of equity, it's South River, not Southern, I mean, Southern and South River. But I think funding is tight. Prioritization is hard. I just ask that you just consider our students. They deserve exactly what Mr. Silkworth said, what others get, and I thank you.
Ms. McDermott.
Thank you. First, thank you for the wonderful presentation. Really informative, and I can't wait to dig into it more. My real question is, in context here, is that I represent District 4, which is West County, in conjunction with Ms. Dent, who represents District 1. I'm looking at the top 3 middle school regions with wait lists for pre-K, realizing that we share those. And then I'm looking at the ECE conversions list and noticing that only 2 of those would probably serve South or West County. How do we begin to rectify that and try to fix that? Because I don't think that these 2 sites would answer for all of those requests.
I think one thing to keep in mind that, so Carver is not on the list. Obviously, we're undergoing that project right now, and that would serve Crofton and Arundel areas.
Right.
One of the big things that we're looking at is how to repurpose some of those buildings. So you can see on the EEC list, we have Van Bocklen, which would serve the Meade cluster. That's a fairly decent size EEC if we would convert that. That's a lot of students. That was one of the areas that we noticed as a high wait list population last year. This year numbers are a little different. So we have to wait for those pre-K numbers to materialize before we can pursue some of these projects. So that's what we're looking at. But we are looking at more of a regional approach to EECs. We've kind of maxed out our elementary school buildings with the addition of kindergarten over the past 15 years. And now trying to add another grade level in there is very difficult with the course.
Got it. Could, off the top of your head or in your gigantic binder, could you offer me the number that Van Bocklen could serve for?
Sure.
Thank you.
So Van Bocklen currently has a state rated capacity of 539. It's not necessarily apples to oranges as far as what we would do with a pre-K space, but it's a fairly good size comparatively. Cary Wheaton is 80 students. Carver is 120 or will be.
Okay.
So it's fairly large.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And Ms. Pulliam.
Question, sorry, I didn't get this earlier. With the pre-K, and when you mentioned the wait list, is that after the redistricting or currently moving forward?
The wait list numbers that we have in the report are last year's.
Last year's, okay. And then do we have a longer list to see? Because I know in our district with the redistricting, the one thing that we heard a lot is about the pre-K wait list. It would be interesting just to see, is it in the report, the EFMP, the wait list for all the schools, or is it just?
We have not published the wait list in the EFMP.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. My question is really around the energy efficient. I just want to clear it up for a comment, is that when we do the renovation of buildings and facilities, we are going toward the net zero energy efficient requirement, if you will. from the state. Is that accurate?
When we're looking at replacement or new buildings, we go for the net zero. So right now, Jeff and his team have just bid out Old Mill North Middle School, and that could be potentially our first net zero building.
Okay. And then the follow-on question to that is that when I look at the slide, I think it's slide 60, well, it is slide 16, it talks about us being prepared for future changes in the regulation. What does that mean?
Sorry.
What page was that again?
It's page 16.
16.
Part of it says that, but we must be prepared for future changes. And the reason I'm asking that question is that as an old facility sergeant major in the Army, what happens is people renovate the buildings, and then they figure out after we spent millions of dollars on this renovation, oh yeah, by the way, we were supposed to X, Y, and Z. And so we know here in Maryland that there's a lot of energy efficient goals. An aspirational one was for net zero by 2031. Obviously, we're not going to make that goal. So the new one is in 2045. And so I'm asking, is consideration being taken as we move forward, that we look to make sure that we are considering upcoming regulations, and that when we bid out these projects, that all of those regulations are being taken into consideration? Because what I hate to do is sink, $130+ million into a building, and then a month later, we're finding out, oh, well, we needed to do X, Y, and Z, and we don't have the money to do it. And then it starts to become a pattern of having to renovate this maintenance on this building, right? And so I just want to pull that just a little bit more to see if that's a consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say generally that's the approach the team is taking. As Kyle just mentioned, you are actually starting to build that into the bidding process to make sure the budgeting and the procurement process is aligning with those things. So it's just it's an evolving thing in the states, and obviously nationally things change depending on political administrations and whatnot, but staying on top of that. But it's also, in many ways, it's the right thing to do. So I think as you continue to make sure you're pushing sort of the educational specifications and design standards, you're going to achieve those things just by doing good design anyways, which you guys are doing. But in many ways you're already doing that and just staying on top of the regulations with those new construction projects.
One of the biggest challenges that we have right now is BEPS. So it's Building Energy Performance Standards. So K-12 education in Maryland at the current time is exempt as long as it's a school building. Administrative buildings are not exempt. So we do have to align ourselves, our energy standards, the way we use our energy, so that we're not penalized. There are monetary penalties associated with that, and we want to be in front of that. That's not to say in the future, Maryland couldn't realign the legislation and say, K-12, you're no longer exempt.
Well, we don't want them to say that just yet.
Yes, not yet.
All right. Dr. Heiser, I'll leave you with closing comments since you've been so quiet, and I can't stand when you're quiet.
I know well, I don't like it when you're quiet either. It makes me probably more nervous than it makes you. With that said, I do want to thank Mr. Davis. I want to thank the team as well and echo the comments here. We had great questions tonight. I'm sure there will be more questions. We welcome those questions. Transparent process, really want to be able to get back to you and keep moving forward. I think we've made a tremendous investment over the past 10 years to the point in the presentation, and we have an opportunity to make an even greater investment in a really kind of difficult and challenging economic environment that's ahead of us. It doesn't mean, though, we're not committed to that. And so once again, thank you for your attention and listening to the presentation. Thank you again to the team.
One last final comment that I wanted to make sure I make is that, first of all, I want to thank all of the public who put in over 2,000 plus comments. That is incredible to me. And I want to say, keep on advocating for the things that we need here for AACPS. So thank you all very much. Okay, we're going to go for item 6, consent items, award of contracts. Do I see a motion to bundle?
Motion to bundle.
Second.
Dr. Bedell?
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the Board of Education authorize the award of contracts on the consent items numbered 6.01 through 6.02.
So moved.
All right, Ms. Al? I didn't hear you.
Sorry, who seconded?
Ms. Shawhine. She said so moved.
Ms.
Dr.
Schallheim?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Action items on 7.1 to 7.09. Boy. All right. Administrative personnel appointments. Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends the board approve the administrative personnel appointments as discussed in executive close.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.02, sabbatical leave.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends that the sabbatical leave request be approved.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim?
Aye.
Ms. McFarland? Aye. Mr. Morgan?
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam?
Aye.
Dr. Tobin?
Aye.
Ms. McDermott?
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth?
Aye.
Ms. Dent?
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. All right, next item is the Global Community Citizenship Course Review, GCC. Dr. Bedell.
Madam President, we will have our Chief Academic Officer who will come up to take us through this course review, Christina Catalano.
Good evening. Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, Dr. Bedell, members of the board. For the record, Christina Catalano, Chief Academic Officer. At our last board meeting, Ms. Schallheim did request that we review the Global Community Citizenship course. And following that December 3rd meeting, staff did meet with members of the board to discuss the Global Citizenship course and the potential to look at standards that we could infuse into that course. Specifically, we discussed standards that are aligned to the Maryland State Department of Education financial literacy standards. We had a very robust, good discussion. And we really the discussion resulted in us agreeing that we find value in the standards that are aligned to both of those courses. Those courses teach our students valuable knowledge and skills that align to our Portrait of a Graduate in our strategic plan. And we felt that they each warrant their own 0.5 graduation credit one semester course. And so the Global Community Citizen course is up for review this year. And so it is on the schedule to be revised per our typical process. Whenever we do undergo a course revision, we do provide professional learning to staff who will be teaching that course. And so that will take place. And so per that discussion, where we landed was that we will have a recommendation that will be presented later on this evening during our policy discussion from Dr. Bedell, where we will maintain the 0.5 graduation credit requirement for global community citizenship. And then we will also have a 0.5 credit requirement for financial literacy. And so Dr. Bedell will make that recommendation when the time is appropriate during our policy discussion.
All right, board members, do you have any questions? I know that Mrs. Shawheim said she had one, so we'll start off with her. She's the first on the list tonight.
Thank you. And I realize that you all might not know why I'm not there tonight, and I apologize for that. I was seeing my daughter's winter concert at Smyrna Park High School. So to provide some clarity for those on the record, that's why I'm not there tonight, and I apologize. All right, so I have a quick statement I would like to read. I would like to start by thanking Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Catalano, and Chief of Staff, Mr. Dickerson, as well as my colleagues, Dr. Tobin, Ms. McDermott, and Ms. Pulliam, for their amazing, rich discussion and collaboration we had on December 4th about GCC and financial literacy. I'd also like to thank Policy Director Ms. Wilson and Dr. Bedell for subsequent conversations on the same. I am deeply appreciative and in full support of where we landed, revising or revisiting the curriculum and professional development for GCC to return the course to where it started the fall of 2019 before COVID hit, and elevate financial literacy by establishing this subject as a graduation requirement. Both courses, I believe, will set up our students for success in life, no matter their path post-graduation. So many, many thanks. This is incredible, and I'm just so happy about where we landed. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Shawheim. Dr. Tobin.
Yeah, I just wanted to second what Ms. Schalheim said. I was grateful to be a part of the conversation, and I think it was an excellent conversation. And I think both courses are incredibly important to all our students. And so I appreciate the work that you and your team are doing, Ms. Catalano. I had one quick question. Could you remind me, I know that one thing that emerged is that there is a course on the books that is essentially financial literacy, but it's a name that most people wouldn't recognize as such. Could you remind me of the name of that?
I can. So the course that we reviewed is Algebraic Applications Daily Living. And one of the things we did discuss is that when I went back to the team, I did want to have a discussion around other courses that exist in our program of study that are also standards aligned to the MSDE financial literacy standards, to see if there would be other pathways for students to meet that 0.5 graduation requirement, as long as, again, the standards in the course per law align to the Maryland state standards. And so that is the course that we reviewed. We are in the process of identifying other courses that we feel also would satisfy that graduation requirement due to the standards alignment.
And yes, so it turns out there are potentially several
courses
that can also, if I recall, if they're sequenced appropriately, could potentially meet some math requirements.
Potentially. We're still looking into that.
Okay, we're looking into that because I say that, so the public are aware that I think we're doing exactly the sorts of things that Blueprint is calling on us to do, particularly to change some of the focus of high school, and to ensure that, as always knowing we have to meet standards, we have to live by the state requirements, and we always will, that, done innovatively, some of this can offer some wonderful opportunities potentially for our students to get their required math. But again, for those of us who were in school a long time ago, the path isn't quite as rigid as it once was. And I think there are a lot of great opportunities here. So thank you very much. Thank you to your team. And I think there are great opportunities here in both these classes for our students.
Mr. Morgan.
Hello. Thank you so much. I actually had a conversation with a student this past either today or yesterday about this class, and I kind of so not only for me, I know for the public and fellow students, so I can get it out to fellow students. what are we looking to, kind of change and implement? The biggest thing I hear from students about GCC is it's too late. It's too late in their, in their career, in their journey of through ACPS, because they aren't really learning much. And so it's really exciting that we're putting, different things in there that many students don't learn until it is too late. And so yeah, what are we, so we all know.
So the standards of the course are not changing. And that's actually the discussion that we had when we reviewed the standards for the course. They are standards that are tied to just things that make you a really good global citizen. And we found that they're very valuable. And again, they align to the things that are in our portrait of a graduate and our strategic plan. What we're looking at is more revising the actual instructional practice and the implementation of the course. The course in its inception was meant to be a discourse heavy course where students have the opportunity to really engage in robust discussion. That's why it should be taken in your 9th grade year to help you understand how to have good discussion with your classmates. And so just really looking at keeping the standards the same, but revising some of the lessons that align to those standards is what we're really looking at and targeting with the revision.
Okay, awesome. Like I said, that's a lot. That aligns in perfectly with a lot of stuff I hear is that it's not, some students feel like it may not be relevant or may not just, they're not learning a lot. So it's awesome to hear that we're revising that so we can align it to how they
And it was last written in 2019. So a lot has changed.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Ms. McFarland.
Thank you. I am really excited about the financial literacy. I mean, it's so important. And I just wondered, for the public that's listening, can you kind of just go over a few of the things that would be
Yes.
included in that?
So it's all the things you want your children to learn. It starts with basic budget planning, bank accounts, checking, savings, credit. What are credit cards? How do you maintain credit? What does it mean to establish credit? Different types of loans. There's an emphasis on student loans, obviously, because these are high school students. Many of them are applying for college. So different types of loans. What's interest? How does interest accrue on loans? So again, just basic things we want our students to know before they graduate, before they go into the world, before they have to think about how they're spending their own money.
That is absolutely amazing. We're going to have people going into college. I think the student loan process is going to have to completely change because students are going to be too smart for it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Pulliam.
Thank you so much, Ms. Catalano. I want to, and thank you for meeting with us the other day. That, people say all the time, we don't have, and sometimes it just starts with the discussion. And that's what we had the other day. I want to focus specifically on the Global Community Citizenship course and make sure that people at home hear this because it's something that's come up with parents and we've discussed. One of the, not issues, but one of the concerns with the Global Community course was scheduling. And we mentioned that in the meeting and I want folks to hear your response. But when you have students that are going to STEM, then they have to add the language, and then it makes it much harder for them to take on another area if they wanted to do music or something like that. It's my understanding now that we've reduced the requirements, the graduation credit requirements, this will now not be a problem. Can you just make sure I said that properly?
You said that properly because by establishing a different floor, it frees up time in students' schedules for things that they would like to take. And so oftentimes students feel they have to make choices and really tough choices. Do I take this AP course and can I still do chorus? Or can I, take this dual enrollment course and still do theater? And they're trying to get in all of their requirements, and sometimes they have to make those tough choices. And so by establishing a different floor, we're freeing up time in their schedule to hopefully not have to make some of those difficult choices. I think this will allow them to, in terms of their electives, be able to continue with the arts, be able to continue with the things that they want to pursue, because we're changing that floor, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And I think that was part of the problem. We have so many great courses, the discovery piece, you get pigeonholed sometimes because you are taking those and with your AP courses. So thank you for reiterating that. I just want to make sure the folks at home also hear your response. Thank you.
And I would like to just thank you very much for just the work that you've done over the last couple of weeks with this. But I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Ms. Schallheim for joining us via Zoom, making sure that even though she's out tonight for her daughter's winter concert, she took time out of the schedule still to join us tonight because of the importance of everything that she's doing here on the board. So thank you, Ms. Schallheim. Also, the question I have for you was really specifically about what are you taking? You said you were changing. I'm trying to understand. You said you wasn't changing the standards.
Correct.
You were just changing the curriculum of the course. So what does that mean for you?
So courses are aligned to a set of standards. And then we provide guidance to teachers in terms of lessons for how they implement those standards. And so that's the work that we'll be doing is the lessons that are being implemented aligned to the standards is what will undergo the revision. The standards are broad.
So I think there was some questions around whether the teachers that was teaching the course really had the understanding of the materials that they were being taught. And I guess my question, so I'm trying to figure out the professional development, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yes.
Is the training that you do is surrounding the professional
That's the
development?
professional development that we would provide that would come out with the revision of the course.
Okay,
Correct.
yeah, because I think that to me, I think was the number one focus. Okay, all right. I will give you closing comments and then we'll be done.
Yeah, that's all. We'll follow up during the policy discussion with Ms. Wilson for how we'll proceed with this change.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Next up, item 7.0, graduation requirement. Dr. Bedell.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Before Ms. Wilson talks about where we are on the revisions to this policy, I wanted to take a few minutes to expand on Ms. Catalano's remarks from the last item and let this board and public know where we are with both GCC and financial literacy. As Ms. Catalano stated, there is a great need for both of these courses. In my opinion, there is also a need to make them both required courses. As we have announced, the currently proposed revisions to this policy will be accompanied by changes in our administrative regulation that will reduce the number of required credits from 26 to 22 and a half. That will continue to include our global community citizenship course as a required course. With regard to financial literacy, we will make that a required half-credit course for all high school students beginning with next year's 9th graders. Led by Ms. Catalano, our team is working on multiple pathways through which students will be able to earn this half credit. We will have more to say on the specifics of that in the near future. The overall impact of these changes is that beginning next year, students will need 23 credits to graduate, 3 fewer than this year. Next year's freshmen will need 1/2 of those credits to be in financial literacy and 1/2 to be in the enhanced global community citizenship course. It is my recommendation that the board allow for additional public comment on the financial literacy change before giving final approval to the policy in January. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Good evening, President Dent, Vice President Pulliam, and members of the board. I'm Grace Wilson, the Director of Legislation and Policy, and I have at the table with me our Chief Academic Officer, Ms. Catalano. Policy IIC graduation requirements is before you on second reading this evening after being posted for a 30-day public comment period. There were 7 comments received during that feedback period. Those have been shared with you, the board members, and are available online. As a reminder, we are not proposing any substantive changes to the policy itself, but because of the substantive changes proposed to the regulation, we are recommending that it go through the board's 3-reader process to ensure that our community is informed of these changing graduation requirements for our students. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Catalano to discuss the regulatory changes we've proposed.
So the point that I do want to reiterate is the change now to 23. And so with the addition of the requirement for 0.5 financial literacy, we're shifting from 26 to 23.
Thank you. So as Dr. Bedell has authorized this substantive change to the regulation, we would ask that the board put this policy and regulation out for an additional public comment period through your January 14th meeting, when this will be back on 3rd reading. And with that, Ms. Catalano and I would be happy to take any questions you have.
All right, Ms. Shawheim.
First, thank you again. I'm delighted. I have one clarifying question. So for classes, let's see here, let me make sure I do this right. Class of 27, 28, and 29, those students obviously wouldn't be required to take the 0.5 financial literacy course, but should they elect to take it, I imagine that algebraic applications, daily living, financial, I think it's X43 is the code, financial literacy, and then of course all the APs and probably other courses as well would provide those students with that subject matter should they wish to avail themselves of that opportunity. Is that correct? At all comprehensive high schools?
That is correct.
Excellent. And lastly, I think this is a wonderful idea to put it out for public comment. I want to express my support for this. It is a sea change, one that I absolutely support, allowing our students to follow their passions and but not be at the absolute floor. And this is also in line, I want to just remind my colleagues, with the other 9 LEAs I mentioned that also require financial literacy. Their total credit requirements for graduation vary from 22 to 25. So it just puts us right in there. And I just wanted to thank everyone involved again. And this is wonderful. Thank you.
Mr. Silkworth.
So I have a few comments. The financial literacy, I am so happy to hear that that is going to be a requirement. It absolutely is essential. Global citizenship has been a requirement. That is fine. But I must say that I still have some concerns about the proposed change from 26 to 23. And my concerns were echoed by some of the comments that were received over the past 30 days. And so if I could take a minute just to kind of share some of those comments. Electives are not extras. They are essential. High school is often the only time students can explore a variety of subjects, find talents and interests that shape their futures. When we reduce elective opportunities, we restrict students' ability to experiment, to be creative, and to grow in ways that core classes alone cannot. I'm writing to express serious concerns about the proposed changes to our graduation requirements, particularly the reduction in the number of credits needed for students to graduate. While I understand the intention to increase flexibility, I worry that these revisions further dilute academic expectations at a time when many of our students are already struggling with literacy and foundational skills. Those final credits where students can explore their interests through electives or stretch their minds through advanced core classes are a critical culmination of public school. It is irresponsible to eliminate them. Those are just a few. So again, I'm really kind of struggling with, I was struggling with 22 and a half. So I'm struggling a little bit less now that it's 23. But I'm still struggling with it. As someone who taught for a long time I know how students made some decisions. And again, I guess I am struggling with this. So I'm glad we're not voting tonight.
Dr. Tobin?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit on the other side from my friend, Mr. Silkworth. I know. It's my understanding, first of all, I've heard from a number of families that it's extremely hard for students who have a bad semester or for whatever the reason something happens, whether it's a family thing or whatever. And so making up courses is extremely difficult with the high credit requirement that we have currently. I do understand the concern, I absolutely do, about students making good choices. But I happen to believe that we will do better on the whole. Our students will do better on the whole if we give them a certain amount of responsibility for making these decisions. And by the time you reach high school in this environment, you need to be learning how to do that. And it's one of the reasons we now have career counselors in middle school. We have focus on building that sense that students need to take ownership of their learning. That's the world we live in right now. The days of simply completing a required course of study as the single thing you're supposed to do, I think are slipping away very quickly. And so I am in favor of dropping the requirements. I have been for a long time. I've talked about this for a long time because I also believe, and I think I said something like this at our workshop Monday night, we have to be very careful about teaching young people by our examples that you simply have to go through things by checking all the boxes, because that's not going to work. For life, it's not going to work. And you can't approach school as just a game you have to succeed at. There are certainly those who do, but I think that's increasingly a very difficult path for students to follow. And I think we live in a world where, for all the reasons Ms. Pulliam mentioned earlier, CTE, the things that students can be ready to do even before they graduate requires a sense of owning your own education. And so there's a bit of a risk here, I understand. But I happen to believe that the environment demands that we give over to our young people a real understanding that they're going to have to take that responsibility, and that we need to model that that's as much a part of education as completing your assignments. It's understanding why you're here and what you want to do and who you want to be. And so, this all gets into sort of very broad philosophical terrain, as I want to do, but I do think these things are connected. And so that's why I am in support of changing these requirements. I think it's ultimately going to serve our students in meaningful ways. So thank you.
And Ms. Pulliam?
I'll be real quick. Your comments stem something from our meeting with you, Ms. Catalano. I too am on the fence there because I see some students getting out early and I'm not, yesterday when I was in high school, it was you had to have special permission or you had to have something lined up if you were leaving earlier. However, the other side of that coin that you pointed out to us in the meeting is having that buffer provides extra time if students need to retake courses and not have to go to summer school, right?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So I am on that line, and it's cost effective because you have them in the school, they get to use up that time. But then I also see the flip side, but I'm not sure how many that percentage is that actually leave early and don't have a job or an apprenticeship or things like that, or if they're not doing something like the FFA or something in their community. But when you mention that piece, that this also gives them an opportunity to retake courses that they need for graduation. So just thank you for making sure we are aware of that. Thank you.
Mr. Morgan.
I had a couple concerns come to me, more or less questions. And it really boiled down to, would this impact seniors in partial schedules at all?
So seniors should take 4 credits, and that will be in the program of study for next year's incoming class. So with the change to 23 credits, the program of study will outline that in your senior year, you should take 4 credits. Now, a credit can be your internship credit. A credit can be your apprenticeship credit. And so that doesn't mean that you are in a seat in your school for 4 classes, but it means you're taking 4 credits.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
You are welcome.
And Ms. Shaw?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate, because it's a little awkward doing this by Zoom, of course, which is why we don't do it all that often. But I wanted to reiterate to everyone that the change in credits does not mean that you can have any sort of partial schedule freshman, sophomore, and junior year without, I think, massive extenuating circumstances like you're graduating early, or that type of thing. So for those parents who are concerned, and there really haven't been all that many that have reached out to me, to be quite honest, a couple, it's just good to reiterate that this doesn't mean that we're erasing senior year, or, we're letting folks have partial schedules in the underclassmen grades. And to Ms. Catalano's point, it's wonderful that, and this aligns with Blueprint, of course, that internships and apprenticeships or what have you also count as credits. So I just wanted to state that, and please, I knew Ms. Catalano or Ms. Wilson, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was my understanding of things, and I'm here for it.
That's correct. And the only thing I will add is the emphasis on a floor. And I think that's important for everyone to remember. 23 is a floor. When we did our analysis of other school systems that have between 22 and 23 credits, students are graduating with well above that on average. And so and the elective piece isn't going away. It's students, it goes back to students being able to map out 4 years and what they want to do over those 4 years and how they're going to plan for their courses. If you think about it, they have the opportunity to take 8 a year. And so what are my 8 a year over the next 4 years, and how am I going to fill in 8 slots each year over 4 years with the things that I want to take, which is where our electives come in. We have a very, very robust program of study in AACPS with lots of pathways for students to choose. And so this just gives them an opportunity to really map that out in a way that's meaningful for them and that aligns to their post-secondary pathway of choice.
Ms. Shaw, did that answer your question? Any follow-up question?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
All right. Dr. Bedell, I'm going to give you final comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to just respond to a couple of things I heard up here. I 2016 went into another school district. The graduation rate in that school district was at 68% in 2016. And as I went in and started discovering things, I learned that there were certain things that the kids in that school district were required to do that no other school district surrounding them were required to do. Basically, we were shooting ourselves in the foot. So I come to Anne Arundel County and I'm asking the same question. Why is it that we can't get over 90% in our graduation rates when everybody else around us is? And I thought about, okay, what is stopping us? We generally hover around 88, 89. A district this good can't hit 90. And again, I looked at what's happening in these other districts that surround us. Why are all these districts over 90%? In the 1 year we did get over 90%, we kind of got a pass. It was COVID. It's the only reason why we hit 90. And then I thought about it and I said, man, well, here's part of the reason. I'm losing 60 to 70 kids every year because we require our kids to have 26 when every other district around us requires 22 and a half to 23. And every single district that we also looked at that surrounds us, they offer a quality program of study for their kids, just like we're offering. And I know people will say, well, there's a rite of passage. I don't agree with all that rite of passage stuff, that because this is how everybody's always done it, this is how these kids have to go through it. And we are in a different world. We're making a lot of changes to really put our kids in the best position. And for me, it is about flexibility by the time these kids become a senior. We're intentional around that. We want to steer you into internships, externships, you taking advantage of all of these opportunities to interface with the real world that also aligns with what we talk about in our strategic plan, where we want our kids to be. So we can't have constraints that constantly put us at a disadvantage, not only against our strategic plan, but it puts us at a disadvantage against what the state is calling for us to do in the law. And it puts us at a disadvantage against other school districts. Nobody, again, we're not looking to take away jobs, but I would hope that this would end up driving us being able to hear from kids around, here are the innovative elective courses we want to offer. And do we have educators in our building where this may be a passion project for them from an elective standpoint that, oh yeah, I'm willing to do that, given we have all of these kids who want to teach this particular, want to learn this particular course. That's what I've seen in the districts where we've had to make changes to really give kids more flexibility in having some choice. And to me, I think that helps to increase attendance rates. It helps to balance out the math, the science, the social studies, and the English, because these kids have more choice. And so this is really from the premise that I want to see this change, and it's just too many pros that outweigh the cons on why we shouldn't move forward with making these changes.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And I appreciate all the work that's been going into this policy. I am looking forward to the public comments with the new changes. And if there is anything that I can solicit, it is for the public to really take a look at the graduation policy, because it is going to affect a lot of students. And so please take a look at, please provide your comments. And with that, thank you very, very much, Ms. Catalano. Now we'll talk about policy 7.05, use of stock bronchulators. Dr. Bedell.
Yes, at this time, I'll pass it over to Grace, who will take us through the second reading of this policy adoption of JECC.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Again, for the record, Grace Wilson, Director of Legislation and Policy, Policy JECC, use of stock bronchodilators, is before you this evening on second reading after being posted for a 30-day public comment period. There were no public comments received during that time period. As a reminder, this policy is being promulgated to account for House Bill 86 from 2024, which authorized the school nurse and designated school personnel to administer a stock bronchodilator to a student in K through 12 who is determined or perceived to be having an asthma-related symptoms. They are not authorized to administer them to a pre-K student who has not been diagnosed with asthma. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions you may have.
I see no questions. Item number 7.06, purchasing procedure.
All right, Grace will take us through the first reading of this 7.06.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Policy DEA, Purchasing Authority, is before you on first reading this evening. The policy is being updated to make edits for style and formatting and to reflect the recent administrative reorganization, to add legal references, to create an exemption for contracts awarded as part of emergency procurement and to require that this type of procurement be reported to the board, and to increase contract modifications that must be reported to the board from 100,000 to 500,000. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions you have on policy DEA.
Thank you. I see no questions. Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Item 7.07, Old Mill Middle School North replacement. Dr. Bedell.
Madam President, the superintendent recommends approval of the Old Mill Middle School North replacement, Forest Conservation Declaration of Covenants, Conditions, and Restrictions.
So moved.
Second.
No comments. Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland. Aye. Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Ms. McDermott.
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 7.08, fiscal year 2026 second quarter operating budget supplemental and funds transfer. Dr. Bedell.
All right, Matt Stansky will take us through this real quick. I'll go ahead and make the recommendation now. The superintendent recommends approval of the second quarter operating budget supplemental and fund transfer for FY 2026 to be submitted to the county council.
Thank you. For the record, Matt Stansky, Chief Financial Officer. This is our standard second quarter fund transfer and supplemental that is before you. Very briefly, we have about $2.2 million in just grant reconciliations between federal, state, and local grants, and $4.2 million requested in additional use of fund balance go towards the second phase of our ERP upgrade, our enterprise resource planning system upgrade. This is our HR, budget, and finance system that we're converting to the cloud and upgrading. And so this is a 12-month project, and all said and done about an 18-month project, but this is the last tranche of funding needed to complete that work. And so with that, I respectfully request the board's approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, I see no questions. Could I get a motion, please?
I motion to move the fund request forward.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland. Aye. Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Ms. McDermott.
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
All right, item 7.09, fiscal year 2026 supplemental capital budget appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. The superintendent recommends approval of the FY 2026 supplemental capital budget appropriation for security-related upgrades and upgrade to various schools.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Howe.
Ms. Schallheim,
Aye.
Ms. McFarland. Aye. Mr. Morgan.
Aye.
Ms. Pulliam.
Aye.
Dr. Tobin.
Aye.
Ms. McDermott.
Aye.
Mr. Silkworth.
Aye.
And Ms. Dent.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Item 8.01, monthly financial status report. Any questions? All right, with that, couple of comments, the closing comments. I want to say thank you for everyone that tolerated me during my official first board meeting. I know that there's some things that happens across the desk. It's different when you're sitting in the hot seat. So thank you all for your patience as we move through this, but I promise to get better. For all of the people involved, tomorrow morning is the superintendent's breakfast. I look forward to seeing all of you in your ugly sweaters. I also look forward to seeing if anybody can top Dr. Bedell in the ugly sweater contest. So, and with that, motion to close. Like that.
I motion to close.
Second.
Good night, everybody.